the principles. A lot of people ready to talk about DHS principles.
And
we
they
make
are
that the show title. And
they are
Max
just
left.
They are
literally
just
left.
No, I'm here.
They're
My camera's
amazing.
turned off. Yeah.
I
Oh,
didn't
close the
read them
window.
with a close enough eye when I read them earlier today.
All right, hold it for the show. I feel
No,
like
I
amazing.
am. I'm just.
You letting it.
I've got to. You know how actors do those voice acting things before they come on stage. It's just this is the equivalent that I'm doing. I'm just
Principles are amazing.
Wow.
I feel like that may be the early title for us right away.
Yeah, they just. And I'm gonna try not to say "hey" really loud just for Aaron.
No.
Well, you know, I did upload a new
I think
emoji for hey. So
Hey!
You did? Oh, there it
yeah,
is.
it's the He-Man doing the Four Non-Blondes Hey song.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. I like the guy, the chef. Just there's a little interlude where he's just.
All right, let's
I think
tell
that
the
might
world.
be for the show notes. That might be. All right, let me find you a good link for that one, Brandon.
He cries.
He-Man
Oh
saying,
man,
know your meme.
you need to send the one that's like 15 hours. That's the best one.
All right, we put it on Twitter. I put it in Mastodon. What's the other one? Oh yeah, I have to put it in the Slack too. Got to set up some automation. Got to get some automation going for this one day.
Man, what are they putting in the water in Chicago? There's a lot going on up there.
Oh man, so good.
All right, well I'll tweet out what we're doing.
I got all the. What's that? What'd you say, Matt?
I was to the disco Four Non-Blondes.
Oh.
Oh,
all right.
God,
Well, here I think it sounds like we're gonna lead off with DHH, so I'm gonna move that up.
I had something else to talk about, but I guess we could do that.
No, I mean after the cold open. Hey, that's what I was gonna say. We got one ad. Just you know.
For the new stack, are we doing some exchange with them or something?
Yeah.
Okay. Good job, Brandon. I'm sure that's your doing.
Yep.
Yes,
this
it
is.
is.
The last one.
Yep. It's a responsible thing for the podcast. It's probably Brandon.
I was involved in that. That's true.
I think for the 10th consecutive year in a row, Brandon's the one going to club.
If only.
Yep.
If only.
Employee of the quarter. 60 quarters in a row.
It's like the Jorts episode of Hilda where you go up and that one guy's that has been employee of the month for like I once calculated this because I wanted to know what's the elapsed time in this episode, and I think it was about 2 years because the Jorts guy, he's a delivery guy and he gets promoted because he's got those mice in his head that makes everything go his way, and so he gets promoted to be CEO of the Jorts Chip Company. And then there's this really quick scene where there's a Xerox machine, or I'm sure it's just a copy machine. And there's like a whole bunch of like, he's one employee of the month for many months. So I counted them and calculated it. And it implies that in that episode, about 2 years have passed. And so there you go. You know that 2 years passed in that episode, which makes you wonder like, well, how come the plots haven't advanced 2 years? But maybe they have. I don't know. You know. Maybe
I'm impressed you calculated it. I mean, that in itself is a whole discussion point.
I think at this point in my life of things I watch with my daughter, I could write like a fucking postgraduate work dissertation on Hilda, like, and pretty soon I'm gonna be able to write it on DuckTales.
I like it. DuckTales. Haven't seen that in a long time. It's funny.
Well,
how, it's like so like in your world and then it's gone. These shows like come and go so quick. You know, it's just like. I guess for you. All right, Cote. I think we're ready.
All right, let me tweet this here.
Matt, are you finished with breakfast? Get the last bite in.
3 bites left.
Okay.
Eat it.
Well, I'm good.
All right.
I'm gonna put this on the Mastodon. You know, while we're doing this, so let's.
It's on the Mastodon, so you can like boost the software defined talk tweet. Boost the software defined talk. Toot? What is it called? Mastodon tweet?
I don't fucking know. I don't really know about Mastodon.
Apparently, the original was it German
changed
author?
It, right? Mm-hmm.
Well, he didn't know that toot was kind of a euphemism. Is it a euphemism? Oh,
yeah, I'd call it a euphemism. Whatever you want to, you're just farting around.
Tooting around.
Hold on, I'm gonna put this in LinkedIn. That's where a lot of our viewers come from, right?
If only we know. If only there was some attribution.
Yeah, what was I going to talk about?
The downside of... Wait. The Mastodon is retweeting the Twitter link that we're live.
What?
Mastodon says software talk live, and then it's a link to.
Oh,
Twitter
I messed it
page.
up. Yeah, that was my fault. I did. Oh well, what are you gonna do?
I think you mean the bird site.
Yeah,
Elon Musk's pleasure dome. What do
Did.
they call it these days?
Yeah.
I did mess up.
I wanted to go over. I recently wrote a post about how to use Mastodon, and if you come from Twitter, like just some ideas I have, I think that could be applicable to our audience. All right. What was that? Man, I had a whole idea of something to talk about. Now I've forgotten it.
It's all right. Regrain it. I'm sure it'll come back to you.
Mm-hmm.
Ding ding ding.
Well, we'll just talk about this other thing that I have in mind. All right.
Hey. Sorry, I've got the "Hey, what's going on" song stuck in my head now. It won't stop.
Yeah.
But the disco version.
Well, over here in Duivendrecht, pardon my pronunciation, Amsterdam, as it were, they're doing the thing which, in the States, you're familiar with this, where like they dig up the streets and they're doing something with all the stuff underneath there, right? Like, I don't know, they got some pipes, some wires, whatever's going on. Now, the difference over here, I think actually, coming from there's a bunch of rock underneath the surface that you got to deal with there in Central Texas. Like digging up the streets, big deal, right? Plus, again, you can see where I'm going to go with this. Plus, we have sidewalks that are made of concrete. So just one big thing of poured concrete, right? We got the roads that are asphalt that are also like kind of a big deal. Now over here, and then so we got the limestone underneath there, layered with more rock that you got to deal with and then re-put in. Now over here, they've got some interesting, not subdermal, just sub-street level situation going on, which I think is kind of a fascinating thing. So what they're doing here, I'm going to start with the typical thing that from an American perspective, you would complain about happening in the States. I think what's happened is that they have been laying fiber optic around the neighborhood. And there are at least 3 different network providers. I use Ziggo, and I guess they do it over cable, but it's like gigabit or whatever. I don't know any of this stuff, whatever. And then T-Mobile came and laid fiber, because not fiber. Wait, am I saying the right thing? Fiber optic, yes.
Fiber optic cable, yeah.
Like glass laser shit.
Yes.
And someone came to our door and they said it was going to be 45 euros a month, and I would get not only gigabit download, but also gigabit upload. So
Right.
I was
symmetrical streams, yeah. That's
yeah.
great.
So I was like, sure, cool. That's better than what I got with Ziggo. Sounds good. And then of course they signed me up through it, and this is very typical Netherlands. They were like, and this was in, I want to say early November. They were like, oh, great. We'll call and schedule something for March. And I was like, okay, bye.
Wait, they're not going to put you without high speed till then, are you?
No. Like they would actually, I'll continue using my current thing, but for whatever reason, they can't do it till March. And
I
it's
thought
just
you
sort of-
already had the killer fiber optic connection.
I do, but
I
I don't have. It's asymmetric. I've got like 45 upload or something instead of just a gigadoodle.
Sounds like me.
Yeah. And so I don't know. We'll see if something happens there. I have no idea. I think by the time Brandon knows what's going to happen here. Is T-Mobile's going to send me like some emails and call me and like send me a letter for like 3 years, and nothing will happen because
Yeah.
I'll
Well,
just
if it was
put
Google Fiber, that's exactly what it would be. They just keep
Oh.
sending stuff about how it's going to come. It's like it's been over a decade. They
Yeah.
just keep sending emails, and they're like, "Have you signed up?" Like, well, it's like, or same thing. AT&T, I think 5 years into advertising gigabit internet that's not available to us. It's like,
Oh no! I mean, I'm the one. They're going to be like, we're outside
Oh.
right now, ready to install it.
yeah,
and I'll
and you're
just
going to
be
be
like,
like, "I can't do it."
Yeah.
Something came up. I'm in Luxembourg.
yeah,
and
it'd be
I
like,
tell
I just finally sat down and I'm reading like the New York Review of Books this week, and like I'm kind of in the middle in a really cool review of like a book about the color yellow. So
And you
Sorry.
definitely need gigabit download, gigabit upload for that.
yes. So anyways, so we got that, and then so I guess they dug up for that a little while ago, right? And then I think this week, I think the KPN people, and KPN is like the AT&T of the Netherlands, right? I think it used to be like the whatever, it's all demonopolized long ago. But KPN came in, and I think they laid down cable. So I've got this like
God, just hearing this makes me jealous. You have 3 different cables in the neighborhood.
Well, I think we only have
providers.
I think we only
incredible.
we have 2 fiber and 1 cable, right?
What is going on? How is this possible?
Wait, Brandon, are you saying that Australia has leapfroged here? Because I've already got gigabit down.
There's not a fiber optic cable in
50
Northwest
up.
Austin. Let me tell you that. It is a fiber desert up here.
What's your connection though? It's got to be pretty
old
fast.
school Spectrum cable, coax.
Yeah, but how fast?
1 gig. Oh, you can get up to 1 gig down and like 25 up. Something slow up.
Oh my gosh, Brandon.
It's not good.
So anyway,
you got beat by NBN.
So here's you're reminding me of another strange thing. So we have, if you go outside of our door right now, there is, and it might actually be the T-Mobile pink color. There's some pinkish color like wire that's just like poked up
straight up
out of the dirt.
All right, Cote,
that's
after
kind of
this
like
show, you're gonna have to go out there and take a photo and send it to me. I want to see it.
Okay, so we got that. We've had that for a while, and then
Oh
this
my
week.
gosh.
This week they came in and they tore up the sidewalk, which is the part that I want to get to. And at the end of my sidewalk, at the street, there's like a teal blue cable just popping up out of the sidewalk, also tied up. So first of all,
Oh my god.
like, is that how fiber works? You can just like
Yeah.
stick it up there and it's cool. I mean, that's a great technology. So
To terminate it eventually. But when you're just laying it out.
and so now I have 2 tied off like fiber things in my zone
Ready
here.
to go. Yeah.
But what I wanted to comment on is like, so normally if I were to go over that for back there in Austin, it would just be like, oh my God, that would be a nightmare, right? You're going to tear up the streets. You're going to have to dig into there. And then after that, you've got to come lay the asphalt. And like, it's like a whole big thing.
Correct.
But here, these have been 2 separate operations. And I've been thinking about, this is madness that they've done it twice. However, I've got a theory. And again, this is one of my, like, I haven't verified anything. I'm just a visitor here. But like, so if you look under, the first thing is the first layer for both the street that I'm on and the sidewalk is that it's modern day cobblestone. So it's these little like bricks that fit together, right? It's not like a poured concrete thing. And so like, it's actually really easy to remove these bricks and just put them back. Like you can do
a
it.
little Lego kind of thing, just like
Yeah,
pop
yeah.
up.
Yeah, they get a little Lego picker.
And you get one of those big machines that like some guy holds and it goes.
So they thought ahead. There's some kind of conduit, kind of like
Right.
I like these
Way to get-
modern
okay.
cobblestones.
Now, what makes it even more ingenious, and I saw them do this all in one day, right?
Okay.
Like we woke up one day, and there were like several workers on our street, and they had pulled up the cobblestones, and they had like a little ditch digger. And here's the killer thing that Austinites will not understand. You know what's underneath the cobblestone? Fucking sand. It's just sand.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Wow.
And so like you just dig out a trench of the sand, right?
Yeah.
And then here's the crazy thing. So they've got a big to do out on my street over here. Like that's been going on for a while. It's madness over there. But it's also cobblestone. It's also sand. And like I'm pretty sure what they do with the fiber optic wires is they dig out the sand and they just lay down the wires and then they put sand on top of it. There's not even like a fucking pipe that they go in.
Yeah. No, it's already.
It's just
when
like-
they lay it, it's already wrapped to be. Yeah. No. Sure.
Yeah, but so there's just like a bundle of fiber optic cable that goes from like the box on the sidewalk to each of the houses, and I'm just like,
It's
what?
like a dream. It's like a
That's
dream
the-
come true.
Like it seems like that wouldn't work. Like you put the dirt on, and it's almost like if you would imagine like really tough Christmas tree lights, and you were to string them underneath the in the sand, and you put the sand on top. Like you don't need anything else.
Well, how far down? Like at 3 feet? Is it? You think that the trench is 3 feet?
You know what? I should go take a picture of this to see like
Because
where
the
it is.
How
complaint-
soon till they hit water?
Well, I
Well,
was gonna say, like, isn't there a point where like you dig too far and you're like, oh, everything?
it's
just got
it's
wet?
it's
Here
not
comes
you
the
know
dike.
if
Yeah.
if I were to stand in so the trench on my street, if you were to stand on that trench, it would come up to like below my knee. So that trench is not very deep. Now you go out to the main street. This trench they have a deep trench, but the fiber optic cable is still only about knee deep down, right? So it's not that deep. Now they got all sorts of other business going on in that trench out there. I don't know what they're doing. They got a water pump over there, like big action out there. But my whole point here is that I think that's the key. Like what we've been doing wrong back in Austin is like we should have had sand underneath everything, and then it'd be a lot easier to do subterranean work.
Hey, just one final thing before we wrap it. Could you just tell that crew when they finish to come over to Austin? No, dude. I'm so jealous. I can't imagine. I mean, it's not like I think you're lying, but I can't believe you have multiple fiber optic cables dug outside your house, and multiple people coming up. I mean, it's like, Brian, our moderator, he lives right around the corner from here, not far. Like he's still on DSL, which I used to have in my old house, which wasn't far from here, and it was like that was all you could really get there was DSL, right? And it's like, that's even like, that's its own set of problems. So, I don't know.
Now, what I'm thinking, I haven't finished reading the DNS O'Reilly book, so I don't know if this will work. But I'm thinking like,
on you finishing that book.
What if I signed up for both of those fiber cables? Would I get double the speed of internet?
Yeah, I mean, you could be multi-homed, right? You could have the whole. It could be a little complicated, but you could do it.
Your house might not be wired for that, though.
Yeah, you'd probably have to have two. Yeah, you have to have two connections coming in to like some type of rack. But
I mean, unless they're wiring it into the house, but they're.
Could I just say like I'm going to drill a little hole underneath my door and just pull the cable in?
Sure.
No, sure.
Yeah, and terminate it too. Yeah, you could. I mean, that would be incredible. You should just do that for the show. Software Defined Talk should just pay for that.
Yeah, so you can read the New Yorker
take a picture.
Multi-home internet. Yeah,
multi-home fiber optic cables in my flat, in my Dutch flat. That would be fantastic.
Now am I going to need like a NetApp Juniper router or something?
You're going to need to step up to at least some.
Or can I do this with like a Raspberry Pi?
You might want to contact your Arista salesman.
Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right.
I love Cote. You should just straight up call the network provider. I don't know. I've got 2 fiber optic cables in here. I hooked up the Google Nest router. It's not working. They're like, sir, no, you can't do that.
or I should.
Eero. The Eero boxes don't support all of this. No, they do not. We don't.
I should find an old Apple airport and then try to call them. Be like, this that in itself
would be a great video. Just like we should just stick you in a room with like Cote with some network equipment and 2 live fiber optic connections and be like, can Cote configure it to like fall over? To fail over, rather. It would I don't know, it would take weeks, I think. It would take it.
No, I don't want fail over. I just want double the speed. I want to be like, when I download something, use both of these.
It won't be faster, right? Because like that's the physics thing. It can't be faster. You could do more. You could download more, but the actual files won't go any faster. So
I can't be like Slack runs off KPN. And like YouTube runs off of T-Mobile.
You could do that, but that would just be like they won't be any faster, right? Because neither connection would be saturated, so it'd still be basically the same, right?
Right.
So you wouldn't really.
It depends how often you're maxing out your gigabit down.
Which I would assume is never, almost never, right? I mean, like, what are you doing? Like, how could you be maxing it out?
I mean, what if I want to download the 4K version of every video from
I think it's 24 megs a second is a 4K stream. So you'd have to be, so you kind of do the math there, right? You have to have a lot of maybe.
Oh, 8K. Okay. Now
you have to go a lot higher than that.
This is out of my domain of expertise, but what if I wanted to stream every NFL game on Sunday?
Yeah, listen, I already have that figured out. I've got that figured out. It's only 10. That's only going to be 10 streams. It's not going to be a big deal. It's not enough.
Right.
Not going to be enough. You have to go to like 8K or something ridiculously high fidelity. Maybe like X-rays. Maybe if you could are you like a radiologist? Like getting a lot of high definition X-rays.
But aren't X-rays just black and white?
No, I think not for the radiologists. I think they have them like super high def now.
I've got it.
Wait a minute. Sorry, I think I meant MRI. Let me correct myself.
Yes. That's what I was going to say.
MRI. Sorry, my bad.
So I could do 10 concurrent real-time MRI analyses. That's what I want to be able to do.
I would question the results of that analysis, but
that is
you could probably have it projected. Yeah.
I don't know if y'all been around an MRI machine, but my neighbors are not going to like that noise. That's
again, you just have to look at the data. You don't have to take the actual machine. So.
My neighbors might prefer an MRI to my dog.
Oh, hey.
Hold on, that's a good title. All All right. Oh yeah. Hey, this episode's sponsored by the New Stack. Everyone go visit the friends at the New Stack. Listen to their podcast. They're good.
All right.
I love the New Stack. You know, we used to cross-post our podcast there. It was a major component of our growth early on. I won't go into it. All right. Let's see what we got here. Oh, man. When does it go away? Protecting the cash cow. Mm-hmm. All right. We'll just go to the meat. Well, there's a lot going on up in Chicago this week. I think
in the water.
I think, you know, let's just fully succumb to it and let the warm ocean water wash us over, and just revel in the missives that the DHH guy has been sending out. Now, just to catch everyone up, I think what happened is Suse Rancher told them it was going to cost them $2 million to run Kubernetes, and I have to imagine, you know, someone went to like a closet and just like yelled, composed themselves. And then I think some of the Basecamp 37 Signals people came back. They smoothed out their shirt, and they were like, all right, let's work on an alternative to this, because I don't want to give a lot of that money to run Kubernetes. And then they were like, all right, we're spending a lot of money. It looks like potentially like, you know, $5-7 million. I don't know much on Amazon to run this stuff. That doesn't seem right. So instead, what we're going to do is we're going to repatriate things. We're going to buy a bunch of stuff. I mean, the Dell people have to be just like high-fiving down there in Austin. Like we're going to, although it's probably the regional.
It's $600,000. That's what's coming their way. $600,000 hardware order.
The marketing people, I have to say. Maybe the reps are like, still got to make my number. I don't know what you're talking about. Like these other Chicago companies that keep dragging their feet, but these guys over here love them, right?
Yep.
So like, I don't know what number the. However, like you got to imagine by categorization, 37 Signals is a tiny account. So whoever, like whatever rep or inside salesperson is covering that, they're getting a boat, right? Like cool for them. So, you know, so they're basic, like Dell's got some great marketing going here because they're going to buy a bunch of Dell hardware. And what is it, about 600K of servers? There's some calculations for this. But basically the thing is, the theory that our DHH has put out here for and I apologize to Aaron for is that they're going to be able to save, I think it was $7 million over 5 years.
Yeah. 5 years.
By running it on their own. And it's going to be now your old friend, Matt Ray, Adam Jacobs, had a tweet thread analyzing this slightly. It sounds like, correct me where I'm wrong, but I think they have a rack. But then that's their primary, and they also have 2 other racks for redundancy in some other like zones.
I think it's 4 racks total. I think it's 2 and 2.
Right.
2. Yep. Mm-hmm.
But the whole point is that they are cutting their costs by moving to did we used to say, do we still say colo? I don't know if managed service, but
sure.
They're moving to a colo where some people manage their racks for their email thing, which seems nice. Like that sounds great. So now, Brandon, I want to ask you, does this mean the public cloud is over?
Well, I think according to DHH, for SaaS services of their size, of equivalent workloads, it's over. I think he has taken the strongest position possible to say that, and we'll talk about it maybe in a second, because in addition to posting this, he posted his 5 principles.
You got to pace it out, Brandon.
Yeah, no, we're going to be here for a while. Settle in, everyone. Get a drink. So, you know, I think the point is, and I think if you just kind of come out to this, I think this original post, my original reading of this one was sort of like, it felt pretty measured. It was like, okay, over 5 years, let's just take all the assumptions you put in here, right? Like, workload's pretty static. They don't expect much growth. They don't see a lot of value in any kind of elastic bursting or reduction of, servers.
Mhm.
They didn't talk anything about dev tests. So I don't know. Either they've got that figured out, or they, maybe they'll use the cloud. Maybe they wouldn't. We also
Test
talked
in
about
production.
getting 5 years out of the software, but they also said that in some cases they feel like they could get up to 7 years out of the hardware as well.
That's not making Dell happy.
Right. And it's like, okay, so it's like it's a little bit of leasing a car, right? It's like, okay, like I know what I need. They even kind of say in here too, it also says that, that they can put aside something on the, like around, let's say, because it even says here, in round numbers, let's call savings $1.5 million per year, put aside $500,000 to unforeseen expenses over the period. And that's still $7 million saved over 5 years. So it's like, okay, right? But I think it's one of those things, it's almost like self-insurance. You're like, I can see how they got there. I think with a lot of assumptions here, and if everything went pretty much perfect, right? I think they could realize the savings, right? But I think when you push into this, because he's also said that they didn't have to add any staff at all, right? And it's like, feels a little bit surprising, right? At least that staff would maybe have to at least be retrained a little bit, or like there's got to be some type of cost, right? Like the staff gets retrained, or they're not doing other things like that. But you can kind of see like, okay, figure it out, like about $1 million. And then the question I have is like, that I would love to know is just like, what's their top line revenue? So couldn't really find anything that was publicly available for 37 signals. I'm guessing like $10 to $20 million, right?
Right. You might be able to calculate it because they might have mentioned how many users they have, and you have to pay or you get the fucking RM-RF on Hey.
Right. And they've got Basecamp too. So there's like, I don't know. So I just don't know.
Oh,
so
that's true.
So maybe, if you're saving 10%, like if, maybe they could get to that $1 million, maybe they are saving 10%. And again, it's sort of like with a lot of these assumptions built in is like, I could see maybe you would get there. Now, the other thing that I think is interesting, of course, they're not actually leaving the cloud because they can't get all of their storage off. So that's still another like little S3, I guess, is they're still using. So I guess if you kind of look at it, you're like, I didn't think it was crazy. I didn't think the calculations were crazy. I just thought to myself, you're just making a lot of assumptions. You're taking on more risk, which maybe totally makes sense for their business, but you've sort of boxed yourself in, right? If anything changes, you could quickly find yourself paying more than you expected. Matt, I think you want to say something.
Yeah, I think that was one of the points is like, yes, nothing's probably going to change. I mean, this is a fairly static app. It's not like, Hey isn't going to pivot to something like overnight, right? It's email, right? The workloads are fairly not dynamic. They know what it's going to look like in 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. You can throw in some growth numbers or whatever, and they probably have capacity for days with this much hardware. Unless their hosting provider jacks their prices up or something like that, they're probably fine. And I think that was kind of one of the points of Adam Jacobs' take on it. Was like, well, maybe you didn't belong in the cloud in the first place, or maybe you're not clouding right if you feel like you can't be more efficient in your usage. That's how I took it. I was kind of like, well, is repatriation always the right answer? Maybe you should like look at your workloads, and there are ways to do static workloads cheap or cheaper. Do you have to be on AWS? I'm sure Oracle, their marketing would have jumped at the opportunity to have, to host Hey and and Basecamp or anybody would have. And
this is a good point, Matt Ray. Where was the Oracle rep? Like, like what are they doing?
It's a good question. Where's the Oracle rep? Everybody wants to hear from Oracle sales.
I think this is how I'm trying to think through this first phase of this is, and we talked about this the last time. We talked about what's going over there in Chicago, and I feel like what we might have here is a best case scenario for how much it costs to run an app, right? And again, we don't really exactly know the numbers, but I'm sure if we did some research, or Google searching or Bing searching, whatever it is we'll be using, we could find out, like, we could have a rough idea of the workload and kind of profile. I mean, you could probably just like start a Twitter thread and get them to do this stuff. I mean, really, as a side note, what they need
Ask
to do,
ChatGPT.
what they should really do is, I don't know if they use Excel or like Apple numbers. I don't know what their deal is, but like they just, like, the next thing they need to do is just publish the spreadsheets. And like, that would be great. Just publish your PowerPoint presentations and your spreadsheets or your memos or whatever. Just dump it all. Put it up in archive.org just for posterity, right? But I think what we could establish here is, like, for a relatively complex, high scale application, this is the baseline for running it, right? And whatever that baseline is, like, on the one hand, I mean, they've kind of run through the total cost for things, right? Like what it costs. And I think based on that, you know, you can get a better understanding of like how much it costs to run apps, which I think would be incredibly valuable, right? And again, this is kind of like, let's do that. This is the best case scenario, the people who are in it for adventure, which we'll get to, and they're really like, they're trying hard, right? These are the people who are as the guy over there in California and sometimes Austin would put it, these are the hardcore people, right? And so, you know, if we let's add like a 15 to 20% increase in it, and that's what the rest of us who would like to go home on time and not have to worry about this shit, like, and sleep under our desk, that's what we should be paying for an app, right? And so once we have that, I think we can finally, the spreadsheets will be complete. Right, we're kind of like Dune Messiah, right? Everything will be cool. We got it sorted out, and so that's what makes me excited about this. Is finally we have a number per app, and then we can go to the larger accounts and we can be like, all right, cool. For Hey, and I'm not clear if Basecamp is included in this.
No, it is. I think that's their whole thing. I mean, at least
Okay.
the numbers they say, because they said they spent 3.2 total, and they're basically
For
backing
everything.
out $1 million for everything, and they're backing out $1 million, saying $1 million stays with S3.
Okay, so it's two apps. So
at least
we divide it by
2.3
two.
million. Yeah, so 2.3 here, just to give you the thing. So at least
All right.
2.3 million on everything else: app servers, cache servers, database servers, search servers, the works.
Right. And okay, so we do the division there, and then we know what it costs per an app, which is great, because then you go to the larger
We gotta
companies.
be careful there. We know what these two apps, like, this is a real, I mean, this is the part.
I mean, you know, you got
complicated.
it. We're doing some baselining here. We're gonna do a Monte
yeah.
Carlo thing where we've got the graph that has that like gray, like 30% translucent, like thing going through the middle, and be like, it's somewhere in this range.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. And then so we can go to a company that has like 500, 2,000 apps, and we'll be like, I guess this is your budget. Right, like this is what it's costing you to run stuff, or rather, this is what it should cost. And like, I think, and we talked about this a few episodes ago, and since I've finally shown up now, like that would be phenomenal, just to like know what these things cost. And I think it would like ultimately optimize the entire enterprise software buying cycle if we kind of had a good notion of what it costs. So I think that's what I'm looking forward to here for this first thing.
What I think so, but what I come back to this whole thing with is sort of like, it's interesting just from every level of the business. It's like, so first and foremost, I guess you kind of start if you're like the CEO. So maybe Jason, his other co-founder, is sort of like,
he went on sabbatical though, so I don't know who's running the show.
well, I don't know. I guess whoever's in charge.
Yeah, he wasn't there to keep DHH in check, so he's like,
I guess the question,
we're moving to the cloud.
Yeah, my question is just like sort of like this, because I mean, I think if you're just running the business, it's like, okay, so this is a very much like a private equity type move. It's like, okay, we don't expect much growth. So it's like, I mean, I think you have to start with, okay, I'm just going to say, like, we're saving $1 million a year. It's like when they started this whole conversation, was there like, did anyone have any ideas about like, well, what could we do with an extra $1 million? Like, should we could save the money and just pay ourselves higher salaries. Is always a good idea.
Go on longer
sabbaticals. That. Go on sabbaticals, or like, were there new features for Hey or for Basecamp or something else? Because what you would like to think is to say like, hey, let's not worry about the cost of running it right now, because we see a way to grow the business significantly, right? We want this to be whatever their goals are. So to me, like, when I look at this, I say to myself, well, they didn't have any of those ideas, right? There was nothing, and that seems fair, right? There was like, email is email. Hey, email's as good as it's going to get. There's only going to be incremental features to it. Basecamp, haven't logged in years, have no idea what's going on there. It was fine when I was logged in it before, but you're not doing anything. So now you're just at a point like, we're just taking out cost, right? And it's like, okay. And then you got to go through the question of like, well, like how else can you take out costs other than reducing your infrastructure, right? So I guess
So that's why they didn't call the Oracle sales guy.
Right, I was gonna say they had that conversation, right? They're like, okay, we've done everything else to reduce costs, and now it makes the most sense for us to spend time and money writing this out. And I'm just gonna say it like this way: it's sort of like their assumptions seem reasonable. There is a lot of risk here. You're gonna have to thread the needle a little bit, right? Like a couple bad Dell servers out of warranty, right? That just a CPU or a drive that dies that isn't in the service contract. You'll probably find yourself you have to go, buy more. It probably won't happen, but that's one specific thing. Or if you suddenly had a big uptick in growth, like what would you do, right? You'd have to buy more servers, or you'd have to go back to the cloud. So there's just lots of kind of like nuance inside of this around like if everything went well, and I think it probably will, you probably will get the savings, but you're still kind of like, if you will, you've capped your savings here, right? The most you can save is $1 million versus like running the business. What else could you have done?
Let me. I don't know an extremely articulate way of putting this, but I think maybe a couple of years ago I expressed this thought, which is so the three of us and many of our listeners are old enough to remember the time before public cloud, and like I feel like more or less, except for a small handful of people, the less public cloud. If you are selling software and computer stuff, more or less, the less public cloud there is, the better off you'll be, right? Because it's the equivalent of like if you are in the cable business, streaming is not good for you, right? Like you're forced to adapt, and you've got to like change the way you do things.
Right.
Like,
we fear change.
Right. And insert the last 5 years of Ben Thompson talking about cable bundling and streaming and the NFL and NBA and all that, right? And so it's just like, well, sure, you got to evolve and do things, and you can figure it out, and
nobody wants to do that. Yeah.
It'll be fine. On the other hand, it's sort of like, or not, right? Like it would be great if that whole thing didn't happen.
Well, because all those enterprise software companies are probably thinking, we finally got this thing figured out. We're going to be making our 15% profits every quarter. Mm-hmm. It's all blue skies ahead. I don't care what those booksellers in Seattle are doing. We've got this enterprise software game figured out. Cisco's spinning out, spinning in. They're acquiring companies like crazy. No limits. Enterprise software is the name of the game. And now they're like, the Dell reps are getting excited about a $600K deal because it's the only one they're seeing for the next 5 years from these guys, right?
Yeah.
And
but I think even further, if you just got to read this, I mean, another way to read this whole post is, DHH runs a SaaS company. SaaS is good. Outsourced email is good. That's the way we should do it. But he does not like infrastructure as a service. He's like, that is bad. That is wrong. Because you can kind of take this to the logical extreme and say like,
SaaS for me, not for you. Yes.
I was going to say, turns out you can run nobody knew this. I'm breaking news. Turns out you can run an email server yourself. You can just host it yourself and not have to use HeyMail, right? So that would be like, maybe we should all do that. Like, and of course, I'm sure they use plenty of SaaS services for accounting, for all the things.
What did we do the count the other day? Right? It was like 80 for the average startup with like 5 people.
You can get rid of all of these. You can be like, you know what? We've looked at it. It turns out we can run all of this. We can run Sugar CRM. We don't need any of this stuff. So I think it's just sort of like one of these things. It's just like, it's just very inconsistent in my way of thinking. It's like, hey, the reason you don't do that, the reason we don't run our own email servers is that, sure, maybe we could, spin up a server from Dell for a lot less than $600,000. And I'm sure we can maybe find a way to do it cheaper, but we just think we have other things to spend our time on. And so maybe in this one instance, because it is so core to their business, that one SaaS application at this relatively small company makes a lot of sense for them to host it, and that they don't have the need. Because the other things they don't talk about at all, especially at a reasonably large enterprise, is like so many people struggle to spin up new servers when they need to do things, right? Like if I think back to our days, you were mentioning it, Cote, before. It's like you had to actually call Dell to ship a new server. You had to wait a long time to actually get new capacity, right? And so if at a large company, those benefits, like they don't need them. They don't care about them, right? So that's a whole thing they're not kind of showing. So I just think like this real broad brush of like, this is the only way to run this kind of SaaS application is just, it's really misguided. Like I like the numbers, But man, extrapolating this to like be much bigger is like you are getting yourself in deep, deep trouble, in my opinion.
It's the same story as Dropbox, right? They understand their business model. It's not growing. Put it on prem because, capacity planning, we did it once and we're done for 5 years.
And I think it's worth underlining. Well, I don't know if you two would agree, but something that's important too. Is it a distinction? Like a comment here, which is, I'm not sure that our commentary is reflective of this individual decision. Like as Brandon was kind of saying, like, yeah, for running your own thing that's a customized email server, and then like project management thing that like you've written, like, sure, great, whatever. And then I think more of the thought exercise is like, and therefore does this apply to every other workload in the world, right? Yeah. Like how do we extend out the learnings here to other workloads? And is that like, is that applicable, right? Yep. And I think that is the question that I think is worth pondering, and why, like, the spreadsheets and everything, seeing where the blood work would be good. Now, the other side of this, which is late breaking news, which is great, I think, and again, like, it's hard to think through this about, like, am I being ironic, not ironic, genuine? Because, like, I have all these feelings and emotions at the same time reading across this stuff, right? Because, like, ultimately, like, I mean, that's why and I assume you two have done this podcast and other things for so long, is like, this is like one of our major forms of entertainment, the exciting world of enterprise infrastructure tech world. And so, like, whatever it may be, it's fantastic, right? And so as further, the rolling campaign of this, there were 5 principles posted about their moving here. And like, I think it's fair to,
I think we got to take them one by one, Coach A. I would
right. I just want to introduce this stuff. Like, I want to apply the way that I learned to study English back in the 90s, which was like, you appreciate the text itself, disassociated from the people who wrote it. Like, you just want to, like, really have a close reading of the text itself, not having any sort of, like, value that comes into it based on the author, nor that is projected outward. You're just like, assume that you came across this just sort of like it was a piece of paper that has no name on it, and you picked it up and you were reading it. All and right. I have to say, this is some fantastic stuff. Like, like whatever is going on here is like, I could read this like many more times. It's just all right.
Well, let's get going. Let's say it's okay. I'll read about the React. You can guide us. You can be our discussion guide to keep it in the right. So DHH's 5 values about leaving the cloud. So number 1, quote, we value independence above all else. Being tracked in Amazon's cloud and having to suffer the indignities of outrageous pricing for new experiments like Solid Cash has been intolerable violation of this core value.
And that's when I take the Reba paper and just throw it up in the air, because I'm like, all right, so basically DHH is mad that his software has to run on computers.
Right. Well, let's just go back. I mean, I want to channel, Cote, what you're saying here. Let's just evaluate the text, right? It's like independence above all else and being tracked in Amazon. That's just not correct, right? He's drawing a comparison. It's like, you're not trapped in Amazon cloud. There are numerous other infrastructure as a service providers. There are that will provide all kinds of ways to do it. So I don't know why they pick on them, nor do I mean, this idea that like being in a public cloud or, hosting something on the internet in a cloud provider is being trapped is just not true. There is no, like, you can leave. In fact, they make it very easy to leave. In fact, if anyone would like to help migrate their workloads from anywhere to anywhere, I know someone you can talk to. That's me. So it's very easy to move these things around. So I just would say value number 1 to me is just incorrect. I don't know, Cote, how did you read the text?
I think I was thinking of this principle when you were going over like pricing before. And I think like what I focus on when I read this is the outrageous pricing, intolerable violation. And this wording is just sort of like, it is very much so like the author of this text does not like Amazon. I think and it makes you wonder, right? Like let's say that I am the Central North American regional manager, right? I read this and I'm going to call up the Chicago rep that covers 37 Signals, if that's not just farmed out to like someone else. And I'm going to be like, Jesus Christ, have you been like buying hot dogs for them instead of steaks? Like what is this intolerable violation stuff? Like I don't
Exactly.
understand. Like, wow, what went wrong
but then
here?
the sales guy's like, wait. Let me show you this guy's rants from the last 10
Right,
years.
right. And so you might be like, hey, boss, kind of a handful here up in Chicago. I mean, this is the city that came up with Cards Against Humanity, and that's kind of leaked into the water supply here, right? And so like, we got the insurance companies, they're cool, but like once you kind of go into the startup scene, they think we're intolerably violating them, and so like. I don't know. I mean, I get it. The other thing is, I could understand if you, to your point, Brandon, that you're forced into this box and you find it. This is the next thing that doing this reading that strikes me is like, wow. And the thing is posted as the 5 principles, but like we're straight into some fucking hardcore ethics here. Right? We're just like, goddamn, we're talking about core humanity stuff here, right? Someone has
intolerable.
Someone has
called the United Nations. This will not stand.
Someone has essentially forced, nay, enslaved someone into this intolerable condition where this is Cory Doctorow territory here, where it's just sort of like, let's make some clip art of some money bag people like extracting out money from you in a violation of what you're doing here. So strong statement, right? And I think the answer that many of us would have is like, have you heard of multi-cloud? Which indeed, to your point, right? There's a bit of a contradiction here, which is totally cool, right? Like a solution that has been arrived at does not necessarily contradict the need to have come up with that solution. But a solution was arrived at that, like, actually, we're not trapped. We can leave.
Exactly.
And they did leave. And that's what's even funny, right? That's the whole thing. All right, value number 2. We serve the internet. The business owes the entire existence to the societal and economic operation that is the internet, a place for commerce and more that's not owned by any one company, any one country. Free trade and free expression on a scale never known to humans before. We will not contribute to the erosion of those ideals by voting with our dollars for further consolidation of the servers that run this beautiful free haven into the hands of a few hyperscalers.
Oh, wow.
Wow. Now, this is like...
Go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
I feel like this is like if you trap Bruce Sterling in a room and you took all the people that he loved and in front of them, you like stabbed all of them and killed them. This is what Bruce Sterling would turn into. And I'm not sure if that's good or bad, but I'm loving this one. This one, like, I had not noticed until you read it around the word aberration. And I've got to say, like, oh, fantastic. We did not encounter that word enough. And like, like my second thought here, and at this point, I'm just kind of like reacting to what's happening, is like, I mean, I've only been to Denmark once, right? And like, I stayed in this lovely place, like on a man-made river, and this guy was actually like a somewhat famous stunt actor. But he had he set up his own, this guy's house we stayed in. He set up this kind of institute of like holistic living and kind of working in harmony. And he also there's this Danish practice of putting together these paper puppet shows where you move around the paper. It's not silhouette stuff, if I remember. It's actually like, you don't see the silhouette of the paper things, but it was very gentle and nice. And he was like, oh, welcome to my house. It's very nice. You can look at the paper house things, but please don't touch them. And so like my impression of Denmark is like, they're pretty cool and relaxed. And like something happened here, right? Like I don't know what's going on in Chicago, but like this dude has changed, right? Like, and like, I don't know if it's good or bad, but this is some like straight up like Hunter Thompson shit happening right here.
Well, I think for sure if we have to have Tyler Cohen interview DHH, I feel like that. I think the whole free trade, free expression. Like I just say, if there's ever been a pairing that needs to be, I don't even know. Like, just the whole, even the beginning of it, we served the internet. Like what do you mean? The internet has to be served? Like it does, part like, to me, it doesn't even make any sense.
So this part, maybe this is why like I really like this principle so much. Is like I feel like I feel that, right? Like I, like you two, I am let's say first, because never mind what was happening in the 80s with people sending emails between Stanford and CMU and all that crap. But like, I am of the first generation of the internet, right? And so I remember the Clue Train Manifesto and like all that stuff
Yeah.
where like the internet was this like, I guess they call it the California ideology or whatever, the new aesthetic, like all this stuff. Like I know what's going on. Like I feel this, right? Like the internet was going to be this like fringeware liberating thing. And
That's how it
now,
looks.
now we have this intolerable violation of our core ethics and beliefs, right? And so like,
this is some early 90s Austin getting channeled right here.
I think what you have here is, let's look at the last thing and maybe move on. The beautiful free haven has I'm adding words here, has fallen into the hands of a few hyperscalers. Again, Cory Doctorow right there, right? Like, except amped up, right? Like it's like Cory Doctorow has been like crossbred with Hunter Thompson and Matt Talib or whatever that guy's name is. And we've got that right there.
Yes. I think that one says it. Our number 3 here was we spend our money wisely. The cost of the cloud is grotesque in several key instances, whether it's big iron databases, large NVM storage, or just the latest, fastest compute. We're paying as much to rent the donkey every few months as it would cost to buy it. When that's the case, you should own the donkey. We will spend our money on our own hardware and our own people. Everything else will get the squeeze. So
I just want to summarize this one as we get to squeeze our own donkey.
Yeah, I think that's just. Well, I think this is just the classic. Like, if we don't own it, somehow, if we don't own it, it's not as good. Like,
what is
right?
NVMe, where everything's capitalized except the E?
It's the fastest SSD storage.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Now this next one, I think we spent enough on money here. The next one, number 4 here. So we lead the way. Cloud has been sold as the answer to SaaS companies like ours for a decade or more. I bought the narrative. We bought the narrative. The narrative is not true. Cloud has its place, and we use it well with the launch of Hey, for example. But that place is a minority perch. Most SaaS businesses of our size above should be owning their infrastructure rather than renting it. We will pave the path ideologically and technologically for others to follow that conclusion. So I like this one because it's like it actually right in the middle. It contradicts itself. So he's like, the cloud is bad. The narrative is not true, but they did use it to develop Hey, which seems like the whole point, right? Like you don't want to have to shell out $5 million for the hardware to start. It seems like, oh yeah, just spin up some servers, get it going, and then when you get your workload where you want it, you can make an intelligent decision. So that one I just like. I like it when the contradiction is like literally like just one sentence apart. So Cote, what are your thoughts?
This one should have been deleted. It's not a principle.
Okay.
I think
comment is just a comment about them. I guess that
the problem is you can't have 4 of anything. That's bullshit. You got to have 3, 5, 7, or 9.
You need a good odd number.
And so if you cut 4, you got to cut another one to get down to 3. So maybe you reword this because like this is more of like a statement about historically what's happened. It's not an
This is a conclusion, right?
Right. It's not an expression
of these principles, and we lead the way.
Right. I mean, I like the we lead the way, but then the explanation falls down, right? Like the explanation that follows the we lead the way is more kind of a rallying cry of like the leader who's up there talking to the troops or the sysops or whatever the case may be. The leader is doing the thing where you tear down the sort of Nietzschean like not Zarathustrian. I guess it is Zarathustra. Well, this is the birth of tragedy thing where you tear down the main character so that the audience kind of like rushes in and identifies with them. And then when you build this main character back up, right? Like you have that rising crescendo that we've seen in all the movies, right? Then everyone rallies around it, right? So the leader has to sacrifice themselves to say they've fallen prey to this narrative, things have gone poorly, and then you rally people behind it. But that's not a principle. That's like a rhetorical move to like excite people. So we lead the way is cool, but it's not really expressed in the explanation of like what that means and how we action that.
I like it. All right. Well, the 5th and final one here, we'll wrap it up on the subject here, was this one. Quote, we seek adventure. Quote, make no little plans. They have no magic to stir men's blood and probably themselves will not be realized. Make big plans, aim high in hope and work. I guess that's a quote from Daniel Burnham. And then it goes on to say, quote, "We've been at this business for over 2 decades. To keep the fire alive, we should continue to set our standards high, keep our values honest, and press forward into new territories on all fronts. Otherwise, we will shrivel. We don't need to be the biggest. We don't need to earn the most, but we do need to continue to learn, to challenge, and to aspire." Wow. So,
This
okay.
is
Final one. What do you think on Seeking Adventure?
There's only 2 flaws I can think of, otherwise perfect, right? So the first flaw, well, it's not a flaw, it's a distraction, right? Like, and you know, I don't know. I gotta say, like, using someone else's quote at this point is like, we haven't done that yet, right? Mm-hmm. Like, so all of a sudden we're introducing, I don't know who Daniel Burnham is, or Burnham or whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, I see what's going on here, but whenever you put a quote or an epigraph or whatever from someone else, that requires extra work on the reader's part to say, like, oh boy, I gotta patch out of what I'm doing here. I've got to read this thing. I've got to interpret it. I've got to recontextualize it back into the thing that I'm patching back into and see how it relates. And then as I read further, I've got to, like, have in my mind, I stick it in my cache to see how it relates to the stuff and kind of, like, add some momentum to it, right? This is a lot of fucking work to make a reader go through. Not to mention which, you have this very distracting semicolon. Make big plans, semicolon, aim high, and hope and work. Now, I love a semicolon, right? Like, like, if I see a sentence that has a colon and a semicolon, I'm like, fucking A+ work. Like, I love that. You got to run with that. But like, I think for something like this, if you're using a semicolon, not cool. Second of all, it says, like, there's no period closing this comment, which makes me think they edited out the rest of a quote that might have said something. But if you do that, you need an ellipses following work. So this is very distracting. You just cut that, right? Now, the other thing that I would say, if you know, I think the use of the word shrivel is like, bro, if you wrote something that was controversial about DEI, don't use the word shrivel. Or, you know, like, or whatever it may be. Like, if you're already on thin ice and you're also in Chicago town because of your company and the Cards Against Humanity, that's kind of like a little testy about, like, you know, masculinity stuff, don't use the word shrivel. Not cool, right? Like, you can use just get a little Roger in there. You can figure something out. That word is very distracting in there. However, those 2 things aside, this is the strongest part of it, right? Because what it gets to is, like, and I agree with this. Like, and then I'll get to the how we extend this to other people. Like, I think this is how you rally whatever we may have said or be thinking. Like, yeah, this is true. Like, this is
let's go.
This is the positive version of resume-driven development and you know, not invented here syndrome, right? Which is like, we should be innovating, we should be thinking. This pairs up nicely with we lead the way. And it also pairs up nicely with the we serve the internet, and it kind of escapes you from, like, the grumbling, the Scroogey grumbling about spending money and things like that, right? Now, the issue with the We Seek Adventure is you've more or less invalidated this advice to be applied to enterprises, right? Because in this instance, if I'm the AWS or Oracle rep, and I'm going to go have a meeting with one of the big insurance companies in Chicago, and they're like, "What do you make of this?" And they send this over here. Like, if I'm the rep, I'm like, well, okay, CIO, CFO, are you seeking adventure with your quarterly reports? Yes. Are you gonna enjoy
how's the stock market gonna react to your quarter of adventure?
Which again, totally fine, but I think it does a good job segmenting out. These are pirates we're talking about, and like,
well, I mean, the best thing to me is I'm envisioning this as, like, the kickoff for a private equity re-architecture meeting, right? You know, the company, you know, has just been bought by, you know, some big, you know, Tomo Bravo, and they're like, "Look, guys, we've had our fun. You guys went off, you spent a bunch of money on this internet, but it's time to lead the way. And We Seek Adventure, we're going to re-platform your stuff, move it into a data center, take all the cost savings that we get out of that, and give a nice 12% return to our investors." We're leading. This is the adventure. Who's with us? Who wants to seek adventure with a 15% pay cut?
And I think you're hitting it perfectly, man. I think that's where this whole thing sort of just like wraps on side of itself.
It's the same
like
coin.
After you finish this and you go back to like, now what are we talking about? And they're talking about moving their email server from AWS to on-premise, right? And it's like, that was the adventure. That's the adventure they're seeking. It's like this is not, you know what I mean?
Adventure.
And I think this is the part where like, the tech bro, whatever, like some of the things I don't like other criticisms, but this is probably where it is. It's just like everyone's changing the world. And it's like, no, you're moving your workloads from AWS to your own hosted co-location facilities, right? And you're painting this as some call to arms, that as if we're like having some revolution. And I think again, like, I don't know, Dave, exactly you said this, but I think most of this advice isn't going to apply to anyone, right? Like, I don't think we seek adventure is to your very well said thing. Like, we're not going to the executives to tell them we want to seek adventure.
Yeah. Well, I have two more comments, and then we can move on to bureaucracy. One, my only other editorial note here, or editor's note, is like, let's look at the last part. This is the thing you learn when you study how to do text reading. Never skip over anything. There were 5 principles, and then there's 2. You could say 3 if you count contractions as words, but 2 more words. Let's go. Period. Now, I've spent a lot of time thinking about these last 2 words. More importantly, the punctuation used, and I feel like we have like, there's been this series of cloud repatriation posts that have been so like fueled with like energy and thrill and swashbuckling adventure. And at the end of the journey, to end it in a period, I feel like I don't know what's going on there. It leaves me confused and unsettled, right? I feel like, and not only that, like we have this let's go thing, right? And like, let's go. Oh, right. Like that's like what a period does. Like you need an explanation point there, right? If there's any, and in fact, has he used an exclamation point in this whole thing? Let me search for that. Like, if there is any, okay, there's one when he talks about when that's the case, you should own the donkey. Interesting. Now, I don't know his style well enough, but a dry humor, which I'm not sure if that's what he is. If you said, when that's the case, you should own the donkey, you would put a period there, right? Because you want to like, wait for laughter, right? You don't want to have to like call out that this is a funny statement. So I would move that explanation point, or bang, as people used to say, after let's go, and move that let's go period up to after the donkey. And I think right then, aside from my comment about the number 4, what follows after we lead the way is needs to be re-edited. I think you've got a great manifesto. And so my second thing there is like, I love all of this. I'm all for it. I want to see more of this out there. Like, I think every, like, what I want to see is our buddy Slotman over at ServiceNow write this series of posts. Like, I think that would be the first thing. Let's get a Aloha guy to write this. I think that would be great. All the big SaaS companies, big and small, they should be writing some missives like this. 3 to 5 part like blog series talking about how repatriation is good, and that there's an intolerable violation of their core violations, their core values about spending on public cloud.
Or maybe some of them put in the effort to be more cloud native friendly, and aren't having the same problems.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. I think after talking through this, and this is what you hope for in like kind of a liberal artsy analysis stuff. You want to go in, you might have a notion of how you feel about it. You want to talk through it, kind of review it, and you're gonna find out, 1, you still know nothing. That's always valuable. But 2, it's gonna change your mind about things. And I think this is all fantastic. This is good stuff. So that said, Brandon, do we have any bureaucracy this week?
Oh, let's see here. We do have a few things this week. So first, Matt, I guess this is I don't know. You're our official APAC correspondent, but I got some disturbing news. Craig, friend of the show, says that they do not refrigerate their eggs in New Zealand. And I don't know. Can you confirm or deny? Does Australia and New Zealand, they have different opinions on egg refrigeration?
We do. I don't know. I mean,
all right.
I think in all fairness to Craig, he's out in the sticks of New Zealand, so who knows what
So it
those
could be.
eggs
He
might
could
be
just
free
be doing his
roaming.
own
Yeah.
thing there, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll get to the bottom of this. I'll send Matt Ray will be chartering a jet to New Zealand and doing
Over here
a
in
sample.
cosmopolitan Sydney, we're refrigerating our eggs.
Yeah, I guess this goes back a couple episodes. Kote, we did. I guess we posed the question to you. You did confirm that you do keep your eggs
On the counter.
On
That's
the
right.
counter, kind of next to the butter. You said, I think
You got to eat them fast, though.
Next to the butter, we keep our eggs between the butter and the air fryer. And I would like to tell our Dutch listeners it's a Philips air fryer. So we're trying to
there you go.
keep the money in country here.
Keep it in the country. Oh, good. All right. Also, I want to thank. We didn't get to it this week, but we have been talking a little bit about maybe media companies should host their own Mastodon servers. So there's a good article. I'll put a link in here about the FT Financial Times. I guess they tried it and didn't go so well. A lot of potential legal ramifications. So it's interesting. So yeah, go ahead and check that out. And then I just want to let everyone know, because Christopher, he took advantage of it. But anyone can send us a question anytime. Just send it to questions@softwaredefinedtalk.com. I'm happy to send you a sticker, of course, and you can do that by just sending your mailing address to stickers@softwaredefinedtalk.com, and I'll be happy to send you a sticker anywhere in the world. Or you can just send us a question or a comment like Christopher did this week, and we'll probably mention it on the show. So thanks for everyone for all their support.
And there are several conferences coming up. Most notably, both Matt Ray and I will be at the Southern California Linux Expo, better known as Scale. And this is going to be week after next, which will be, I don't know, March 9th to 12th. It's one of these conferences that runs through the weekend, which is fun. And I think both of us are speaking there. Also, DevOps Days LA is going on during that same time. And, it's dangerous when Brandon's not involved to plan anything, but we'll try to have we're working on having a live recording and maybe even a meetup if there's any listeners there, whether they're in the, I realize that saying the LA area is like saying the Central Texas area, like it's a gigantic area, but whether there's, people who are going to the conference or not, listeners who would like to show
Pasadena
up.
area.
Yes, Pasadena. We'll try to figure something out, and of course, we'll notify people in the show here. But if you'd like to attend that, there's 2 discount codes you can use. We have one that is DevOps. It's DevOps without the S. And also, I went to verify that they asked us to use this. There's another code, which is Speak, that gives you 50% off.
Okay, that one is official. I wasn't sure. I took that out. All right, so I'll add that back.
Yeah, they were like, you use this with your followers, and I was like, okay.
No.
Okay.
And I assume they don't mean my cult followers, because I don't let them. They have no
I think it's
expense
fellow
account.
rabble rousers.
Yes, yeah. And there's also Pi Texas, a Python event, April 1st to 2nd in Austin. And of course, here in Amsterdam, there'll be KubeCon, April 18th to 21st.
Yeah.
Where I will be, where we're a media sponsor for it. So hopefully we'll get to go to we'll see what the press and analyst events are like. That'll be fun, huh, Matt?
Well, I did it in Detroit, and hopefully, Brian, we're gonna get to do it again. So maybe whatever we learn at Scale about co-located events, we'll do again in Amsterdam.
I'm
Only
thinking
we'll
of
do it at Kote's house.
I believe that all of the Columbo episodes are in archive.org, so I'm thinking I'm going to buy a trench coat and kind of train up on Columbo. And if they ask if there's any questions in the press room, I'm going to stand up and do my best Columbo impersonation, just sort of ask some questions. We'll see if that works out. And there's also DevOps Day Birmingham, Alabama, April 20th to 21st. And DevOps Days Austin is May 4th and 5th in Austin. We'll see what's going on there. So with that, Brandon, what's your recommendation for this episode?
My recommendation is a book called Demon Copperhead. So this book, I guess it kind of edges up a little bit more on literature. I thought it was incredibly well written, but I found this review online of it. It said it's a hard listen, pitch perfect writing. So it's if you've ever seen the show Justified, it's kind of like a book about that world, and it's about I guess in this case the childhood of the main character there, and it's told in the first person. I think the writing is great, but the book itself, while I think it's really, really good, it's definitely not, if you will, the most uplifting. So you kind of have to be in the right mindset to want to read something like this. Or I listened to it, and I thought actually on Audible, I thought the narrator did an excellent job as well. So if you're looking for something maybe like, I don't know, maybe like a little bit deeper than at least some of the stuff I normally recommend, check out Demon Copperhead. If you want something that's sort of escapism, maybe put this on the list for a later date. Don't read that one. Don't read it right now. So check it out.
Right. For maybe your empty nest retirement situation where you're just like, God damn, I could use some drama in my life, except worrying about sharpening my kitchen knives. Like, it might be something there. How about yourself, Matt Ray? What do you have to recommend?
Well, yeah, I've got a pair of recommendations. The first, of course, is if we're talking about Hey, you gotta link to the He-Man remix of Hey, What's Going On. So that's in the show notes. It's been added to Slack. So you're in on the joke now. Go watch it if you haven't seen that. My other pick is a show that I started watching a while ago, and then for whatever reason I stopped and picked up back up again. Called Peep Show, and this is a BBC show from the 2000s. It's the inner monologue of two roommates, and it continues that genre of shows about terrible people. You know, Seinfeld, Sunny in Philadelphia. It's had some of the most cringeworthy, laugh out loud moments of recent shows for me. So it gets worse. That's all I could say. Is you should continue to watch it. It gets worse and worse and worse, in a funny way.
Intolerable, maybe.
Intolerable.
Well, my recommendation is I forget how long this exhibit is going. I think it's actually going for quite some time. So here at the Rijksmuseum, you know, the I don't know, the State Museum of the Netherlands here in Amsterdam, they have a Vermeer exhibit, and I think you know, that's one of the Dutch master painters. You probably know the girl with the pearl earring, maybe the milkmaid. Those I think are his two most famous ones. But I think they have the most Vermeers that have ever been in one place, which you can go see, and I think it's booked out until like March or so. I mean, if you really want to see it, what you can do is you can buy the Friends of the Rijksmuseum pass, which I think is like 70 euros a year, and you can just go in if you're really desperate. I mean, it's not that much to pay if you work in tech to see some great art. But you know, I have two things to say. One, it's like crazy different to see a Vermeer painting in person. It's like much different than prints and posters. And I don't know, maybe it's ridiculous to say, but it's just like so luminous and glowing. So it looks a lot different to see it in person versus like, I don't know, you go see the Mona Lisa and you're like, yep, moving on, right? Like there's really, I don't know. I don't find any much impressive about the Mona Lisa. It's just there. But these Vermeer things are like amazing, right? To go see in person. And two, like I can kind of see how Vermeer is not at the same cultural appreciation of like a Rembrandt, because Vermeer basically, he kind of paints the same three things over and over again. So there's not a lot of variation. Now, it's great and fun to look at, but like after a while, you're like, I get it. You're going to put someone in front of a window and paint them. Awesome. Like, love the result, but there's not, it's kind of like the people who like keep doing APM companies over and over again. Anyhow, it's worth checking out despite what I was just saying there. It's wonderful. It's very, very moving to go see. So you should go check that out. Now with that, other things you should go check out is the Software Defined Talk Slack channel, where we discuss these things and all sorts of other topics. Not only food, I understand there's some discussion of sports or something, but also like we've got a good channel going on AI stuff where every now and then Brian Gracely of the Cloudcast podcast comes into the ChatGPT channel, and I haven't quite figured this out, but he likes to do a little drive-by link dropping. He'll just drop a link in there with no commentary, and I feel like this is a very Gracely move here to sort of just be like, boom. And like his commentary is based on his selection. So that's a fun thing to watch in the Slack channel, is to be like, what is he thinking when he puts this in there? What's going on there? Because there's no commentary. But if you want to join that check out that channel and other things, you can go to softwaredefinedtalk.com and you can see where to join our Slack. You can also find links to all sorts of stuff we didn't talk about here and how to subscribe to this podcast. If you're wondering what you've been listening to this long, it's a podcast you should subscribe to. And with that, we'll see everyone next time. Bye-bye.
Hey.
Oh, that will be destined to be a new Software Defined Talk sting.
How long have you been storing that one up, Matt Ray?
That was good, Matt.
About 15 seconds.
That was
I was
good.
like,
What a
oh,
pro.
wrapping up.
Well executed. So, all right. Well, DHH, I think we all got it out. Got it out. Had a full episode on that. So it was good.
Let's see
Good
how that
stuff.
works out.
All right. So let's see what else we did. It was okay. I guess we got double confirmation to use the speak code. I don't know. I felt like Matt, I guess when it was just you and me, Matt, I felt wrong to put the speak code in there. So hopefully everyone will get 50% off. What else happened in the Slack? Anything else exciting that we missed?
A nice tangent about Dune and
And there's a vegan
Austin
restaurant
in the 90s,
so-
and yes.
All right. Well, good. Well, good. I think we have covered the DHH thread more in
awesome
depth
stuff.
than anyone. We didn't. There's no need to talk about ChatGPT. Everyone else has already talked about that. No one else is going deep. Maybe that was the final thing we could have done. Is maybe we should have had ChatGPT analyze DHH. Or Microsoft Sydney. I guess is the way it is now. So.
Yes. Threatened by
All right,
a
everyone.
computer.
Thanks for streaming with us. Appreciate seeing some regulars and some new people. So that's really good. So hopefully all of you who are somewhere in LA or somewhere close by can come see Matt and Kote in a few weeks. I'm sure they would appreciate it. And with that, we will talk to you. Most likely, we'll talk to you next week around this time. Hopefully, if all goes well. So until then, we'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye.